Okay, we're going to start the photo album of how you two started your lives together. So, whoever wants to field this question can, but how did you two meet?
I'll, I think I'll take that one. Okay, when we grew up on the farm, it was probably a little different than it is now. We, our time away to try to date girls was weekends, but we did have dances, roller skating events, and so on. So when I'd start going away from home, with my brother, because he was older, and we'd go to town, and later on, I would go on my own. But we were in this town of Venturia, like on Saturday nights, and there we'd watch. That was the time to watch the girls, and here were those cute Dockter girls, and they looked pretty good. So I don't think we had the nerve to ask them, in town. But then I would we'd go to their home like on Sunday nights and ask them if they'd want to go along. And that's what happened when I drove up to Mildred's farm, asked her if she wanted to go out with me, and I think we went to the theater in Ashley probably. That's my side of the story. I'll let Mildred.
That's pretty much true. I did hear about him. He was dating a cousin of mine at the time. And my mom said the Thurns are good people. I remember her saying that.
So it was okay for you to date him then when he came
okay
to college?
with my parents, yeah.
So what was dating like when you guys were young? What would you do?
Well, like I mentioned, it like on weekends, it probably was going to the movie. And we saw a lot of movies at the Ashley Theater. But we did take in dances. We'd go to dances. There were dances at Venturia and Sealand at the time. And there was a roller skating ring near Ashley. And I know we went skating there. We also went skating at Sealand, I think. So that was about it, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. There were no phones. We had no phones, so there was no way he could contact me. He would just have to come. So on Sunday evening, I would usually get ready because I figured he would eventually come. And he did.
You mentioned dances. What were dances like back then?
Polkas and waltzes and two-steps.
Did both of you like to dance?
Yeah, we danced a lot.
Oh.
We still do, little.
Herb was the one that taught me. I never had gone to dances before that. I was like 17 years old.
Was that a little nerve-wracking for you, trying to go to a dance and learn? And
no, at that age, no big deal.
You mentioned movies. What were some of the movies back then that you saw? Do you remember any of them?
I can't remember any of them. Isn't that funny? Should.
I should throw in this when you probably when I went to high school, when I was a freshman, there was a movie theater in Wishick. And I didn't go to the movies that often, but I remember we got in to see a movie for 11 cents. And I know when we started at that time, movies weren't that, they were fairly cheap.
I think they were like a quarter.
So when you would go to a movie, would you go out to dinner as well, or was it just a movie and then home?
No, that's something we didn't do. You didn't.
That was just never done.
You didn't go out for like go out for a Sunday evening supper or that type of thing. Yeah?
Did your
No.
parents ever have him over for dinner?
I tell you, this is the way it worked. My mom said we could, my sister was also dating at the time, and she was dating pretty steady. That's the one that's just years younger than I am. And she said we could entertain both Herb and her future husband, Jonathan. And she helped us cook the meal, and then they left. They left us alone, the two couples, yeah, at our house, yeah. I don't remember what we had. I really, wasn't that terrible? But we had a meal, the four of us. Yeah.
How about you? Did your mom ever have her over for dinner?
It wasn't until we were engaged. Were we engaged by then? Mildred stayed with her grandparents, which were right across, they lived right across the alley from where my mother's house was. So, yeah, we invited you over, come over to the house for dinner or supper or whatever it was.
The first time I met your mom was out at the farm, and we had dinner.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. The second time it was after, it was in town. But my grandmother, Thurn, my grandmother Schmier was so concerned. She made me take a nap so that I would be fresh in the evening and not drowsy, or she was nervous for me. But we had a good time.
How long did you two date before you got engaged?
that's a good question.
I think
Probably
almost a year and a half.
Somewhere in there, year and a half, too.
This is your engagement photo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take this one now and put it here. Let's talk about how you two became engaged.
Okay, this was, we knew I would be going to be activated for the service. So I can't remember just how long, but yeah, I asked her to marry me shortly, probably it was before Christmas, that fall, yet I proposed to her.
So, before you proposed, did you have to ask her father for permission, or how would you do that back then?
No, that's not something we had to do at that time anymore, really. I think that was very rarely done anymore, as far as I know.
I can't remember it being done during those years that we grew up.
What about a ring? How did you pick out a ring, and where would you go to get a ring for a proposal?
My cousin was a pharmacist and had just started a drugstore in Wishick. And for some reason, in talking to him, I got the rings through him, Eugene Wiest, yeah.
I didn't know that till now.
And then I think after we drove to Eureka, I think we took this picture in Eureka. We had this picture taken at Eureka.
Do you remember what day you got engaged on?
Mm-mm.
No, I don't remember either. It's been 56 years.
Little
Do you
more.
remember your parents' reaction when you told them that you were going to get married?
Well, first when he was going into service, we were engaged, and it was fine with them. It was fine. They liked him. And after he was in service, there's a few of the married ladies and some others, gals that had boyfriends. They were going to go see them at Camp Rucker. And I think you had written and asked me to come along.
Oh, no,
You
because it was such a surprise to me when you came
well, anyway,
down.
you had written something about it, and then I asked my parents if I could go with these women, and I did. And then we decided we would get married in Camp Rucker. But I called my folks to let them know. I don't know if you called your mom. You probably did. But my folks weren't exactly too happy.
In essence, we kind of eloped.
Yeah.
When she came down.
It was spring, work was starting, and they needed my help. So I had to promise that I would, after our wedding and short honeymoon, I would go home.
Oh, we should have. We were married by the Army chaplain right there at Camp Rucker. You had a girlfriend, girl that was my buddy's girlfriend.
She was my friend.
So she stood up, he stood up for me, and there were three other guys, three other guys from our unit that were at our wedding ceremony.
He didn't care.
And I think that.
Which is
that must have been that we.
This picture here?
Yeah.
Picture.
So.
Actually, I have a better picture than that, but that's okay.
So we had that taken in Camp Rucker, or down there, maybe at the town, one town.
So how old were you when you got married?
19.
And you?
See, 22, 23. Okay, so after we were married, I got a 3-day pass. And we took the bus down to Panama City, Florida for our honeymoon. We stayed there. And then not too long after that, you had to go back home.
We were married March the 31st, 51. So then after that, spring's work started, so I had to go home.
So did you ever have a wedding celebration for you?
Mm-hmm. Didn't I have it here? Oh, it's downstairs.
Yeah, it's that one that was
In the
downstairs.
center.
Yeah. When was that?
That must have been then like in May or something. After basic training, we were able to get furloughs. So that's when I decided to go home for a furlough and then have her come back with me. I had a car by that time, so there was 3 of us or something that took furloughs to come. And I remember we got as far as Aberdeen and we hitchhiked to Wishick or however it was to get home. But anyway, yeah.
And we took the car back to Alabama then. His car.
I'm going to put a couple other pictures. I know those are
Oh,
kind
yes.
of when you
Those
were
are-
dating, but
Yeah,
it'd still
got
be
those.
great to kind of talk about them a little
Yeah.
bit.
That's at your place.
This one
Right.
is on the farm at your house. This is your house on the farm. Remember, you're holding
Oh.
a puppy, and I don't remember what I'm holding there.
Chicken or something, duck.
Yeah. And then I think this is at our place. Notice how I'm dressed. That's the style. The jeans were rolled up.
Must have been a windy North Dakota day,
Yeah,
too.
it
So, is there anything else about your early years in your relationship that you'd like to share with us? Like how you started dating, how you got married, anything else that we haven't talked about?
Well, I mentioned earlier that my youngest sister used to tag along with us, Diane. Remember that? I think I've even got pictures of her tagging along with us.
Take her to the movies with you and
Places like that, yeah. I can't remember anything else, can you?
No,
These are, I guess, 2 individuals from when you were engaged? individual shots? Because it looks like, no, you're not
Well, I
wearing the same
didn't
thing.
have a picture of myself, so when we took this picture, we took a few of me, and so then that Herb had one to take along.
Was that pretty hard for you when he left?
Yes. My sister Thelma, she had her boyfriend here in near Venturia. And she would always play all kinds of music and usually ended up I was bawling. I didn't like her music. It reminded me of when he was gone. So I cried a lot, yeah.
Did you guys write each other a lot of letters when you were
Yeah,
gone?
I still have them.
How long
Yeah,
did
so-
you live apart?
Well, that wasn't that long.
Mm-mm.
A few, what about? You left in the fall?
We got married in March.
Yeah, so, and you left in the fall, so.
Yeah, we were,
Mhm.
no, from January to,
Oh, you left
we
in
left in January.
I remember that.
You were down in March, and I think in May I came home and you went back down.
So a few months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else for your family history that you both wanted to add in before we start some concluding questions one-on-one?
Yeah, I think we'll just kind of go through. So when I got, okay, we lived in Alabama. You went home at one time because we went to Texas. When we went to Texas for maneuvers, I think we were gone about 6 weeks too. And then you came back again, I think. And were there till we were discharged that August. And we came home and we went, I got a job as a teacher at Morristown, South Dakota. And we were there that winter, that school year. Our youngest son, Clark, was born. Oldest son. Yeah, our oldest child, first child, was born in Lemon, South Dakota at that time.
Is this a family picture? Wait, let's put this up there.
And that's him.
And from there, we moved to Ellendale, and where I attended Ellendale Teachers College, and we were there for 2 years. And from there, we moved to Enderlin, where I taught 1 year, and then to Bismarck, where we lived till from 56 to 61. And let's see, Cheryl was born, that's when we lived in Bismarck the first time. In 1958, she was born. And then we moved, when I got a job with Job Service, we moved to Fargo. And we lived there from 61 to 64. Then we moved to Jamestown and lived there from 64 to 73. And that's where our youngest daughter then was born. 67.
In Jamestown. Here's where we were living in Bismarck. And our son Clark was going to college. That was his first year in college, I think, with his afro. He used to come home from college and he wanted me to trim his hair, but he was so afraid I was going to trim too much off. So we'd sit in the bathroom with a mirror and watch every clip I made to make sure I wasn't cutting off too much of his hair. One time at Christmas time, we went home to see his grandparents, and his grandma Thurn said, Clark, I'll give you $5 if you go to the barber shop and have your hair cut. Of course he didn't. Is there anything else you can remember from this picture?
No, not from that one. Let's see, yeah.
Cheryl was.
She's the one that was different. From quite a bit different than the other two. This one, she was quite forward. She would do anything. But her, she was pretty private. I don't know how how
Very
best
private.
to describe her. Tell them about what she would do when at breakfast time when her brother or somebody else was around.
We usually had cereal for breakfast, and what she would do, she didn't want to talk to anybody, she didn't want to look at anybody, so she takes the cereal boxes and surrounds herself with cereal boxes while she's eating her breakfast. So nobody could see her or nobody could talk to her. And Cheryl was the one, like her dad said, she'd just try in high school, she'd try everything. She was the shorter of the three. And she liked basketball. Well, she discovered she wasn't very good at it, so she was
Statistician.
A statistician. She just tried everything. Track, walked to school. Where this one, when she was old enough to work, we lived just a little ways from the drugstore up here, which is 2 or 3 blocks. She refused to walk. She would drive instead. She would have the only car we had, but she had to drive. Where this one, she'd walk. Who knows where?
Tell her about the piano lessons.
Yeah. When Clarice was in elementary school, she came home, and there was a letter. They sent a note home, and she was supposed to play in the band. And during that time, she's already playing the piano. We have her take lessons. So she promised me, if I don't have to play in the band, Mom, I will take piano lessons till I graduate from high school. And she kept her promise.
Does she still play today?
Doesn't even have a piano.
Neither of the girls.
Her husband is he's a hockey coach, and so both of the children, Mitchell and Taylor, are in hockey, and they're busy with athletics stuff. So.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say anything else.
So eventually, they all three got married.
There's pictures are on the wall.
Yeah, she got married first, and this is, I don't know if you want to sing
Well, this is
that's her
Cheryl.
family. Yeah,
This is Cheryl and her family and her husband. After she got her degree from UND, she went to Willow City for a teaching position, and that's where she met Dwayne.
They have 2 daughters?
Yeah.
Three
Daughters.
3.
He-
well,
farmer and rancher, and she's
2 older ones are in college, and this one is going to be in the freshman this fall.
freshman. Yeah.
okay.
This one got married next.
Yeah, I worked when I started working when she was in the 1st grade. And I was working at a school cafeteria. I did I was on the cash register and did the records, kept the records. And I decided I would work until she gets through high school. Well, then she wanted to go to college, and then I worked for another 4 years. And I think I retired the year she got married. She got married right after, out of college. And now what she's doing the same thing. She always felt that it was so nice of me to be home when she gets home from school. Up until then, I didn't work except occasional babysitting. So she's doing basically the same thing, although what is she doing? She's not teaching, but she's a teacher's aide.
But she
And she's
became
home.
she got her degree as a legal assistant or legal. Oh, what's the?
It's,
Yeah.
it's basically next to an attorney. In fact, her brother wanted her to go to law school, but she got married instead.
And
so
that's,
this is her. That's their
the
family
family
now.
now. She got married here in Bismarck to Troy Lancaster. And right now they're living in Forsyth. He works for ADM, Archer Daniel Smitland, and they're he is the manager of their utility production, electrical production, boilers. They run the boilers and all of that. And they have the two children now, who are what, freshmen and fifth grade?
She'll be in the 5th grade this fall.
Yeah.
And then your son?
Yeah.
He's here.
He was the late comer. I mean, the late
It took
one.
him forever.
I think they got
This is not so
married
good.
in 92, you said,
I'm not sure about the date, Herb.
or
I'll have to
90.
look it up.
And then he is an attorney. He first worked for an insurance firm in Minneapolis, and then went on his own. And they got married in 92, I think.
I'm not sure. I'd have to look
94,
that up. Dates
probably
line.
94. To a girl who is the daughter of pastors, a pastor and his wife. And they live in Stillwater right now.
She's the vice president
The Federal Reserve Bank in
out of she's the
Minneapolis.
first wife, and she's the only woman vice president. There's the other 4 are men. She's tough.
Okay.
No children.